Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. Welcome to this, a set of playthroughs of certain classes in the Old Republic. These will be heavily edited. They will be lacking a lot of the downtime. And they will have spoilers. You know this. This is put in the title of the video. This will focus on primarily dialogue as well as mechanical explanations for these particular classes, as well as just general thoughts on the game going forward. I tend to find when it comes to MMOs that you have to evolve your opinion as you go through them, because the content is very much long form. What can impress you at the start may not necessarily impress you at the end. What can impress you at the start may not exist as you go forward. It may just be simply front-loaded with great content, which we have seen before in various MMO releases. So, I say, when I go through this, it will be simply for the purposes of hopefully entertaining with the amazing voice acting and cutscenes and things that you see there, and also just giving you general thoughts as we go through. Hopefully cutting out the filler as we go. Right, each of the classes does get an introduction, which is something like that. Please bear in mind before we go through that beta is beta, as it is with everything else, or beta if you prefer to say it. I prefer the word beta, both are correct. Beta or beta, all is good. Each of them has that scrolling introduction, Star Wars style, and then goes into something else. And this is where stuff kind of gets a little bit weird. I have to assume that it is beta only. And they'll probably change this, because as you're going to notice there, you've got the spaceship flying in, the nice little pan. It's actually panning to the side as opposed to panning down. And then you get that, which is a bit jarring. And then you walk forward, and then it kicks in the cutscene of you actually arriving, which is kind of weird, if I'm totally honest. And then you go to there, and once you've clicked off this, you should see something along the lines of a holo transmitter. Click on the holo terminal, and then you arrive on the planet. It is a little odd, isn't it? But as I say, I'm pretty sure that's just a sequence break that is in the beta and won't be in the full version, because that is incredibly jarring. But you do get this nice cutscene sweeping in right there, and you get to have a look at some of the environments. We'll talk about the graphical fidelity of this game a little bit later on, but what I will say is that all of the options are not currently available. There are some options which are locked out. Anti-aliasing, for instance, can be forced on, but causes a massive performance hit. It is not properly implemented into the game yet. So that's something to bear in mind when you look at all of this stuff. The final version should look better, although it does have some rather good lighting effects and fairly significant sky dome awesomeness going on. What I will try to do is avoid talking over any of the dialogue, and I will raise the level of the voice in the background in order to make that work. In the first cutscene, the subtitles are not on because I hadn't found the option yet, but after that you'll have subtitles on as well. I'll be shutting up during major dialogue sequences. The first thing I noticed as I went into this section is the musical cues, which you should be able to hear in the background. You might have to turn your volume up just a little bit. I feel for a lot of people, the impact of musical cues and their importance is vastly underestimated when it comes to immersion in games in general. In Star Wars, I think it's absolutely vital. There are the iconic themes, and even the lesser-known themes do help add to the atmosphere immensely. This is not something that many, if any, MMOs have really used properly as a method to increase and heighten the immersion factor. Okay, dialogue time. Let's do it.
Secure transmission established. This is Keeper. We may speak freely, Agent. Prepare to receive your orders.
Keeper, should I be thanking you for these lovely accommodations?
Don't get cute and don't waste my time. You're here to work. You were chosen for this operation because of your exemplary performance during training. Imperial intelligence needs agents capable of working independently in the field. Now you apply your training to the real world. Nemro the Hutt and his organization run Jaguna, and you're in town to convince Nemro to supply the Empire.
You realize I'm not exactly a diplomat.
If the situation requires a diplomat, you will become a diplomat. But for now, a lighter touch is required. We need to know what Nemro and his advisors are thinking before we can act. I want you to obtain access to the Nemro clan's inner circle. You'll require a cover identity. One of our contacts, an alien named Jig, has prepared a background for you and will provide the details.
So who am I going to be?
You'll be taking the role of a visiting pirate and trader. As I said, our contact will give you the details. Jig will be waiting for you at a safe house. Locate him, take what he offers, then report to me.
Are we sure this contact is trustworthy?
Jig won't betray us. Whether he succeeds at his assigned tasks is another matter. I'd be more concerned with the rest of the populace. Most of Jaguna is caught up in a turf war. Some of the gangs involved belong to the Hutts. Others are independent. Your combat training should see you through, but expect brutality and expect to be targeted. Jaguna isn't friendly to strangers. Now, find Jig and report back to me. Keep her out.
Alright, there's your first introductory segment right there, and should give you an impression of what kind of voice acting you can expect. Now, in the case of the Imperial Agent, the male specifically, you've got a very particular vocal style, and I like it an awful lot. Now, you'll also get shouted at by various characters as you move past,
Your first turf war?
which is actually kind of irritating, I have to say. But let's have a word with this guy.
Breathing the air is as
Welcome to
likely to
Hutta,
kill you
kid.
as Fathra's boys
You're new
are.
here.
Buy a blaster.
You look like you got a
learn
bright
the routes
future.
through town.
So let me give you
Just
a
don't
word of
let the last
advice.
hear you dodging work because of a few gangsters.
Watch your back out there. Learn how to please the people in charge. And as soon as you can, get out.
You make Hutta sound like such a wonderful place to be.
The gang wars on Hutta are like the swamps. Wade far enough in, and you'll find yourself stuck and sinking fast. There's a gang war raging out there right now. If you want to survive on Hutta, you're gonna have to learn the ropes. I can get you experience navigating Hutta's gangs, help you build your reputation, if you help me out.
Of course, there's always a catch.
This is a gangster town, controlled by a greedy and cruel Hutt named Nemro. As if there was any other kind. Used to be I worked for Nemro's gang. Violent, bloody life. That's why I left. But now, my little brother's following my footsteps. Nemro's street gang leader, Rex Gear, is my old buddy. I thought he might help get my brother out, but I can't get to Rex for all the fighting.
Some big tough gangster you turned out to be.
I've been out of that life a long time now, and I'm not so young anymore. The problem is, Nemro's enemy, Fathra, has my buddy Rex and his men pinned down. Fathra's gang are more like animals than people. If you could blast your way through them and talk to Rex, convince him to let my brother go, I'd be grateful.
What exactly do I get out of it? I mean, besides a reputation.
I told you what you stand to gain in terms of reputation, but if that's not enough, I think I can swing some credits.
We have an agreement.
Glad to hear it. You'll find Nemro's boys holed up in Jaguna, but you're gonna need to fight through Fathra's thugs, so be careful.
Now, at this point, it's probably best to mention that this quest is not just available for the Imperial Agent, it's also available for the Bounty Hunter. Far as I can tell, the game currently features 2 starting zones per faction, and they're called Origin Worlds. Now, if you'll excuse me, this droid seems rather upset.
You must be looking for someone else. I don't trust you.
Now, back to the point. So, there are 2 Origin Worlds per faction, which means there are 4 total, but there are also 8 classes. I'm pretty sure that you can do the math from there, and that will tell you exactly which classes will go where. It's fairly obvious, honestly. If you are playing as a bounty hunter or if you're playing as an Imperial Agent, you start on Hutta. However, you will be required to do different things. Now, at the start of the video, if you remember correctly, I passed through a kind of green force field. Now, those are actually story areas that separate various parts of the map for various different classes. You can walk in there, and only you, unless you enable the ability for people to join you as part of a group. You can do that, and that will allow other classes to go in there, so you can bring your friends or group mates or guild mates or whatever in there with you if you so desire. All of the other quests outside of those areas are pretty much general. The Lubrel quest that you just saw me pick up right there and the Droid Bounty quest, both of those are available to both the Imperial Agent and to the Bounty Hunter. The 2 Jedi classes have a starting area of their own, as do the 2 other Republic classes, and the 2 Sith classes have a starting area too. So you get different cutscenes, different missions inside the story areas, but you can all do the same stuff on the worlds here. Alright, time to have a look at some combat, shall we? So these are the cover mechanics of the 2 cover-based classes. The Imperial Agent is one of them, the Smuggler on the other side, and the Republic is the other. At level 1, you get a set of basic abilities, and a lot of the abilities for the Imperial Agent and the Smuggler are based on being in cover, to the point where they will not work if you are not in cover. So Snipe, for instance, and the Explosive Probe Droid that I used there, both of those require you to be in cover. Now, you can press, I believe, the F button to roll into nearby cover there, and it will indicate on the display what you can go into and what you can't. And as you can see there, my other abilities were grayed out until I run into cover, and at that point I can then engage the enemy. Now this will of course give you some defensive ability, and later on in the game you'll be able to deploy portable cover wherever you wish. If you don't have any cover available, you can still press the cover button and you will crouch down. You can then still use the abilities, but you're not going to gain the defensive bonus of actually being in cover to begin with. To start with, you get that basic rapid fire right there, as well as a snipe and the explosive probe droid. That ability is quite interesting. The probe droid, you send it at an enemy, and it will hover around said enemy, and then once you shoot at that enemy again, it will explode. Because it's kind of awesome like that, it will also knock a target back and set him on fire, something along those lines. There are actually quite a few abilities that you have in this game that will cause significant knockback, and you can be easily impressed by the animation quality in this game, which is something that I think a lot of people do ignore when they first look at the idea of graphics and graphical fidelity and make comments on that matter. Is it shiny? Is the texture resolution very high? Does it have the latest effects and post-processing? Those are valid points. However, things like animation also come into play when it comes down to the immersion factor. Alright, time to extort a fool.
You got some skill breaking through Fathra's line, and some nerve coming in here. Do I know you?
This old gangster, Brel, he said you're a friend of his.
Yeah, I remember Brel. He wants his brother back, don't he? Well, I can't help. The Brel kid's a traitor. First time Fathra's thugs start shooting at us, he turns coward and tries to join their side. Nemro's gonna have a lot of questions for him, and I can't let him go.
His big brother isn't going to like that. And believe me, you don't want to mess with him.
Then he should have come here himself. Look, I don't want to make trouble. So how about I pay you some credits and you go on your way? Tell Brel's big brother you got here too late or something. You'll be richer, and this weasel will get what he has coming.
I have a better idea. You let Brel go. He and his brother leave Hutta for good, and nobody knows any different.
What am I supposed to tell the boys? Turn coward and get a free pass off Hutta? That kind of deal's no good for morale.
You work with me, or I shoot you in the face.
All right, all right. Looks like you got lucky, Brel. Your big brother's hired muscle just saved your skin.
Thank you.
You better get out of here, too. The boys won't be happy when they find out what you did.
Alright, you can see there the first option to go either down the light or dark path in a particular dialogue tree. It's very interesting considering that the theme of a light side character falling to the dark side is extremely common. That's been explored in the movies, it's been explored in the expanded universe. What has not been explored so much is the idea of the Sith, or people working for the Sith, not actually being pure evil. Now you have the option to be pure evil, but you don't necessarily have to all the time. I'll talk about the full light and dark side system in a future video. Got a little bit more dialogue, so let's have a word with our alien friend over here.
How'd an alien on Hutta end up working for the Empire?
Vataranai angomis akananon, alas protas era. Gratai aptikti, iruprit vertini savasia sa veve kaijis.
If there's another red plate out there, won't that be a problem?
Small sio poputus mana ira padare mananan kali. Vataranai angomis akananon, alas protas era.
Get to the point already.
Acrodonomales, smogas total gisbavo apiatai. Gratai aptikti, iruprit vertini savasia sa vebe kaijis.
They'll probably sell what they stole. What if we made them an offer?
Abravimos brandimus prostis cad atveretag. Vataranai angomis akananon, alas protas era.
There we go. There's a lot of what appears to be inconsequential dialogue in terms of choices that you can make which will elicit specific responses. I've yet to see any evidence of those responses having effects later on in the game, but I don't see why they couldn't do that. That seems like a fairly easy thing to do, just putting a marker on a specific NPC and saying, oh, if you took this dialogue choice, this guy will act like a bit more of a hostile douchebag to you later on, or perhaps vice versa. If you've helped somebody, they may appear in the future. I think that's very likely to happen, considering regardless of the fact that this is an MMO, it's still a BioWare game, and that kind of behavior and those kind of little tricks in order to draw you into the story and make you identify with the characters is a very common BioWare trait. Ding indeed. Now, you do have the ability to learn other stuff, but I haven't done so quite yet. You do have to head to a trainer, just like any other game, as you might imagine. Before I conclude this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about the obvious similarities to World of Warcraft. The similarities include the way that the interface works for the most part, the combat system. It's interesting that I say that, considering that I'm picking a cover-based class, which is easily the most unlike any of the World of Warcraft classes, but if you play any of the other classes that aren't cover-based, you're going to see some blatant similarities. I don't think there's auto-attack, as far as I can tell with this guy. Maybe there's an option for it, but I do have to press 1 in order to fire. I imagine there is a way to turn auto-attack on as well, but aside from that, what I will say is, while it does feel very, very similar to the combat mechanics of World of Warcraft, it is very tight. There are other games that have tried to ape WoW's combat mechanics before, and really, it's not such a big deal to have that happen, considering that WoW aped the mechanics of games before that as well, going all the way back to EverQuest. But in this case, Old Republic has got it really tight. It's totally unoriginal, but it feels really, really good. Whereas, say, a game like Warhammer Online, that didn't. And there are various other games that have very much been WoW-alikes that have not managed to nail the combat system down and make it smooth and make it feel absolutely responsive. I'm not feeling any latency or any problems like that, and in a beta, that's quite impressive. I do hope that we don't have those issues with the full version.
Sio taisek la prasma era. Adra vimos brandimus prostis cad adveretag.
What exactly are these gifts?
Gratai aptikti, iruprit vertini savasia sa vebe kaijis. Vataranai angomis akananon, alas protas era.
From this point forward, operational security will be at a premium. You will not contact us from this terminal again.
Small sio populus mana ira padare mana nan kali.
I understand you corrected Jeek's mishandling of the situation, Agent. We'll now proceed.
That creature didn't just mishandle things, he messed up badly.
Possibly, but we will use him until he's outlived his function. Your next task is to access Nemro's inner circle. Present yourself to the Hutt as a fellow gangster, the Red Blade, and offer him Jeek's gifts. One of the gifts is implanted with a listening device, which we will use to monitor conversations within Nemro's palace.
Doesn't seem worth the bother.
Watch your tone and stay focused. At this juncture, our primary goal is to find weaknesses in Nemro's organization. Even if the Hutt won't join us, we might influence his lieutenants. Talk to Nemro and his men. Determine who we can turn and how we can sway them. We will be listening.
In that case, I'd better watch my mouth.
I expect my ears can handle it, Blade. Be careful what you say. And lose the accent. When you're in the Hutt Palace, you're no longer an Imperial. Contact me from the cantina once Nemro has his presence. Keep her out.
And there you go, folks. Our first quest reward, as you can see right there, going through the storyline quests of the Imperial Agent. Expect quite a bit more of this content, not only with the beta, but also as the game gets released, if people are still interested in watching it, of course. That's my kind of spoiler content, but if you're looking for something that is more of a commentary on the mechanics and things like that, there will be things like class overviews coming, as well as explanations of particular systems within the game. PvP and dungeon content, hopefully, as well, if I have the time to do so. However, I'm going to say the one thing that a lot of people will be interested in knowing: am I actually enjoying it so far? Yes, regardless of its hotkey nature, I think the storytelling really compels me to continue to play the game. I'll see you next time.